Good morning, Rabotai. Welcome to Breakfast in the Class. Breakfast in the Class today is dedicated for a speedy and complete refuah shlema for Rabbani Chana Farhi, Chana Bat Simafega, and as well dedicated for speedy and complete refuah shlema for Rabbi Eli Abadi, Eliyahu Shumon Memazah Fortuné, and as well we'd like to dedicate it as a zechut and in celebration of the engagement last night of Morris Chira, the son of our treasurer here in the Beit Knesset, and the Saida, Jack Saida's family as well. So Be'ezat Hashem, Al Said, Hashem should protect, Hashem should guard, Hashem should help, and Be'ezat Hashem we should be zocheh Balayla Shiro Imi, we should be zocheh to sing. What a magnificent combination of families. Balayla Shiro Imi. My friends, let us begin. In our parasha, we read about the tochacha, which means the rebuke. So there's rebuke that happens in the parasha describing what happens when Am Yisrael does not follow in the ways of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and how does God use as a mechanism to be able to bring people back to teshuvah the fact that their lives sort of get off kilter. They're not as blessed as they would like. And that tochacha, the purpose of that tochacha is ultimately to have a person fix their way, to be able to recalibrate and to connect themselves again with the pathway that brings them beracha. My friends, but there's an interesting and a curious line that appears at the end of the tochacha. It says that why is all this terrible tragedies happen to the people? And in fact, the Gemara quotes this pasuk in the aftermath of the Churban, the destruction of the temple. And it says, why did this all happen? Tachat asher lo avadita et Hashem Elokecha, because you did not serve Hashem your God, b'simcha, with joy, ubetuv levav, and with a good heart, with goodness of the heart, merov kol, when you had everything. When you had everything, you didn't serve God with joy. You didn't serve God with the goodness of your heart. So Hashem says, okay, you don't want to serve me, I'll take it away. And let's see how fast you wake up to the fact that your mitzvot and your connection with the source of your beracha. That's what we're seeing in this pasuk. But my friends, I want to share with you there's something unbelievable here. The Chozeh Lublin was famous for saying that a Jew, most of us, it's not that we don't do the right thing. A lot of times, we do the right thing. We do give tzedakah. We do give a compliment. We do forgive. But you know what? The way we forgive is with no joy. It's with no energy. It's with no goodness of heart. It's with anger. It's with bitterness. It's with resentment. It's recognizing that, you know what? If I didn't forgive, it wouldn't matter anyway. So you know what? I may as well forgive. You know, there's an old line that says, you know, there was a professor who asked his students, he said, he had a glass of water, he says, how heavy is this cup of water? So, you know, everyone is giving a different answer. The professor says, it depends. Depends on how long I'm holding it. If I'm holding it for 2 minutes, weighs nothing. I'm holding it for 2 hours, my arm gets heavy. I hold it for 2 weeks, I can barely lift my arm. I hold it for 2 months, I have cramps, I can never lift my arm ever again. Why? Because even something that really weighs nothing, but if you hold it for long enough, what happens? It eventually, the weight is unbearable. Life is like that. When I'm carrying something, a grudge, I'm upset about something, even if it's so small, even if it's insignificant, over time, it gets unbearably heavy to be able to carry. So sometimes we forgive, and we don't want to carry a grudge, and we drop it. But why do we drop it? Not because we want to, not because we know we should, but you know what? It's just too heavy to carry. Gadol avoni miniso. My sin, it's just got too heavy from carrying it any longer, so I drop it. But who did you drop that for? For yourself. The pasuk over here says that God says to the Jewish people, you know something? Sometimes the problem is not that you're not doing the mitzvot or that you're doing the averot. You're not. You're doing mitzvot. But the way that you're doing them is so half-hearted. It's so it's with such animosity, with such anger, with such bitterness, with such resentment. Hashem says, I'd rather not have that mitzvah at all. Tahat asher, because you did not serve Hashem with simcha, with joy, ubetuv levav, and with the gladness of the heart. My friends, in our mitzvot between ben adam lechavero, between man and their friend, okay, this is it's an incredibly important part of what we do for the other person. I feel like sometimes Hakadosh Baruch Hu, when He looks at our relationship between us and Him, I kind of feel like Hashem gets us. V'yeda kol pa'ul ki ata pe'alto. Literally, that means that every creation will know that you created him. But I always thought there's like an alternate reading of that. V'yeda kol pa'ul Hashem. You know every creation. Ki ata pe'alto. You understand kol yitzur, everything that was ever made. You know why? Ki ata yitzarto Hashem. You get me. You get my mistakes. You get my pettiness. You get my anger. You get my frustration. You made me. You know how I tick. You know who doesn't get us? You know who doesn't forgive our frustrations? Our friends, our brothers, our sisters, our parents, our children. When you do something for them, your parent asks you to do something, asks you to do it once, asks you to do it twice, asks you to do it 3 times. You say, okay, I'm doing it. Now you did it. What is it worth that you did it like that? Nothing. It would have been better if your father would have just said, you know what, forget it. I'll do it myself. And not got that response out of you. Says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Tahat asher lo avadta, because you did not serve b'simcha b'tuv lev. I think Hashem, though, He could forgive us easier than people forgive. Because people, in the way that you made them feel, it makes what you did for them almost irrelevant. So my friends, I want to talk to you a little bit about this idea of Tahat asher lo avadta, because you did not serve. And how do we shift that? How do we change that feeling? I want to share with you something unbelievable. The Pasuk tells us that when someone damages somebody else, they have to pay retribution. What is the retribution? Ayin tahat ayin. An eye for an eye. Most people translate that if I, punched you in the face, I knocked your eye out. What does the Beit Din do to you? They knock your eye out. However, the Gemara says it's not the case. Ayin tachat ayin. If, let's say, I'm negligent, I knock your eye out, does Beit Din knock out my eye? No. What do? You have to pay. You have to pay the value, the cost, the damage that you've done in monetary form. Esavil nagaon. I don't understand. Where is that hinted at in the Pasuk? The Pasuk says an eye for an eye. How did the Gemara come along and say, oh no, it doesn't mean an eye for an eye. It means money. Says the Vilna Gaon something unbelievable. The Pasuk is hinting it to us. Ayin, tahat ayin. If someone knocks out an eye, you know what the retribution is? Tahat ayin. What comes after the word ayin? If you look at the alphabet, ayin, what's the letter after ayin? Pei. What's the letter after yud? Chaf. What's the letter after nun? Samach. The letters after or under ayin are kesef. So ayin, tachat ayin, when you pay for an eye, you pay tachat ayin, which is the letters exactly of kesef. That's the Vilna Gaon. I was thinking to myself, if the Vilna Gaon pulls it off over there, maybe Shlomo Farhi could pull it off over here. And I want to share with you that I'm glad to report that maybe that is the pshat in this pasuk. Tachat asher lo avadta. Because you did not serve God with simcha, with joy, with energy, with excitement. You want to know the antidote to a person that does not serve God with joy? Tachat asher. What comes after the letters of asher? After aleph is bet. After shin is taf. After resh is shin. The letters of Shabbat. Shabbat is the antidote to a person that does mitzvot without energy. And why is that? Why is Shabbat the key to bringing simcha to a person's life? Bringing simcha to a person's avodat Hashem, to a person's service of God. So I want to share with you something that I think is really beautiful. There was a man who came once to Rabbi Moshe Mikobrin, and he said to him, you know, my wife, she's killing me. She's driving me crazy. I got to get rid of her. The rabbi says, really? Your wife is driving you crazy? What's the matter? What's the problem? Why are you getting so angry? Why are you yelling at her? How come you're screaming? Why are you behaving this way? He says, I can't, Rabbi. She's nuts. The G's out of her mind. Everything she does is crazy. Comes from nowhere. It's unexpected, disproportionate. I can't deal with this G anymore. I got to get rid of her. She's crazy. The rabbi smiles. He says, sit down, Rahi. Sits him down. He says, you know, in the Tochacha, we find a beautiful hidush. In the Kilalot, when a person is reading about the Tochacha, we'll see, the Pasuk says, Yakecha Adonai b'shigaon. Hashem, one of the things that a person could get hit with is shigaon. They could be going crazy. Yakecha Hashem b'shigaon. Hashem will make you go crazy. Part of the Kilalot. But then the Pasuk continues, a few Pasukim later, and it says, V'hayita mishuga l'marei einecha. And you will be crazy. You'll become crazy from what you're seeing. So ask Rabbi Moshe Mikorban, I don't understand. You just told me before, Yakecha Hashem, Shigaon. Hashem's going to make you crazy. Then 3 Pasukim later you tell me, V'ayita mishuga, and you're going to be crazy. Why did the Pasuk need to tell you you're going to be crazy after it says, Yakecha Hashem's going to make you crazy? He says the answer must be that it is possible that someone can make you crazy and you could still not become crazy. Therefore, if the Pasuk said it twice, it means that one does not necessarily mean the other. Yeah, she's driving you nuts. Does that mean that you need to become nuts? Does that mean that you need to get down and dirty and do the same thing back to her? She's fighting with you about something crazy. Okay, let it go. It's crazy. You know what's crazier than a crazy person? A person who's arguing with a crazy person. Yakecha Hashem shigaon. Therefore, the Pasuk said 2 separate things, because those 2 things are not automatically or necessarily linked. My friends, I'd like to share that the same thing that could be said about shigaon, about craziness, can also be said about sadness, can also be said about a person's state of mind. End of the day, when people say, this person is making me sad, this person is making me angry, this person is making me, you're not paying attention to what we're talking about here today. Because no one can make you do anything. Nothing can make you do, be, act in any way. Ultimately, a human being has the power to be able to respond however he or she wants in any given situation. If you believe that when someone makes you crazy, it automatically means that you're crazy, then that's what your life will be. And then you'll be subject every single day to any person that you happen to meet. What a terrible life that is. What a terrible life it is. That you wake up in the morning not knowing if you're going to have a good day or a bad day. My friends, on the night of Rosh Hashanah, we say a very beautiful prayer. We dip the apple in the honey, and what do we say? Hashem should bless us with Shana Tova Umetuka. God should bless us with a good year and a sweet year. My friends, most of us see that as a prayer. A tefillah that we're asking from Hashem. Hashem, please bless us with a good year and with a sweet year. I would like to suggest that it is not only a prayer, it is also a decision. We are deciding on the night of Rosh Hashanah that come what may, this is going to be a good year. This is going to be a sweet year. Whatever happens, however I get thrown for a loop, that's what's going to happen. My friends, now we start to understand why the antidote to a person who lives life without simcha is Shabbat. Because what, my friends, is the essence of Shabbat? The essence of Shabbat is when a person recognizes that the life that I have, without anything being changed, without me creating anything new, that's what Shabbat is about. You can't do melacha. What is melacha? Melacha is creative work. Why is melacha forbidden? Because the whole point of Shabbat is that when God decided that the world was done, he had a Shabbat. You know why? Because everything was as it should be. Just like when God created the universe, initially, there was a Shabbat day which celebrated the fact, which indicated that the world was as it should be. We, my friends, also celebrate every single Shabbat of our lives, saying to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, God, everything is as it should be. And I am not going to try and change it by creating this, or creating that, or creating wealth, or creating a fire, or creating anything. This right here, this is beautiful. And with this, I can rejoice and I can be happy. In the Israeli army, they used to have a phrase, and the phrase was, Ze ma sheyesh. This is what there is. Ubazeh nilachem. And with this, we go to war. Sometimes you have the arms that you want. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes you have the number of troops that you want. Sometimes you don't. But if this is what we have, this is how we go to war. This is how we do battle. My friends, that experience, that feeling, that idea of Shabbat, Tachat Asher, that which lies underneath Asher, the letters of Shabbat, is what gifts a person the ability to come towards mitzvot, to come towards family members, to come towards difficult life situations with a joy and a goodness of heart. My friends, if the Torah separates those two things, then they are not the same. Simcha means happiness. But what does tuv levav mean? A good heart. What does that mean? Betuv levav, with a good heart. My friends, I want to share with you, what is the job of the heart? The job of the heart is to pump the blood to reach every part of the human anatomy. It's designed to make sure that the blood gets to your fingers, the blood gets to your brain, right? The blood gets to your feet, to your toes. That is the job of a heart. And says the Mishnah in Avot, you know what the greatest of all midot are? The greatest of all paths are? From all the rabbis' suggestions in the Mishnah, I see the opinion of Rabbi Elazar ben Arach, who says that the best way in life is tuv or tov lev, a person who has a good heart. If your heart beats to the tune of tov, 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 if that's what's being sent to your fingers, to your bones, to your brain, to your toes, if that's what's flowing through you, then my friends, you know what happens? When something comes your way which isn't good, it gets met with a response of something that is. And suddenly, in the phrase of Ze ma sheyesh, in the phrase, in the experience of a person who recognizes that whatever I have from HaKadosh Baruch Hu is what I'm supposed to have right here. I'm not supposed to have 6 bullets in my gun. I'm supposed to have 5. I'm not supposed to have everyone in my family or in my company be on my team. I'm supposed to have someone who's oppositional. God gave that to me. Then you know what happens? They don't wait for anybody. They don't wait for anything to change in order to be able to create the very best reality that they can in the life that they live. That's what the pasuk here is communicating to us. And my friends, I want to tell you, and I want to bless you with one thing. The funny thing about Simcha is that it is a catch-all. I don't know if you remember the custodian in school when you were growing up, or the custodian in the synagogue that you meet, Antonio. They have one key. And that key, it opens the front door, it opens the back door. It opens the bathroom closet, it opens the toy closet. It opens the boiler room, it opens the pantry. It opens everything. What's that called? A master key. A master key is something that has the teeth positioned in exactly the right way, that even though for everybody else, each one of these keys is another key, for the master key, it's all the same key. What is the master key for life? Simcha. Tuv levav. A person who approaches life with happiness. And how does he do that? By experiencing the essence, the nikudah of Shabbat, a recognition that what I need, I have. And if I don't have something, then I don't need something. What a powerful inverse of that same sentence. And when I can be happy that way, because my heart is beating and saying, every beat it gives, tov, 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 good, 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 then you come to life in a very different way. And that key, it opens every door. It opens the door of relationships. It opens the door of investments. It opens the door of prayers. It opens the door for health. The amount of studies that we have today that are telling us that stress itself, just being worried, nervous, and anxious, is enough to affect your heart, your brain, your muscles, everything in your life. Go do any research you want on the effects of stress and anxiety and depression on the human body. My friends, simcha is the master key. It's the challenge of our lifetime to be able to get into a lane where we are setting ourselves up to, no matter what comes our way, reinterpret, swing, retranslate something as tov. And the minute we do that, what happens? Everything is gorgeous. My friends, I've often wondered this, and with this I'll end. In the beginning of creation, God makes light. And then the pasuk says, Vayar Elokim, and God saw the light, and it was good. Second day, God saw everything created, and it was good. And it was good, and it was good, and it was good. Everybody, my friends, looks at the fact that God says, let there be light. Everybody looks at the fact that God says, let there be a firm ground, right? And the waters recede. Let there be animals. Let there be insects. Let there be birds. Let there be man. Everyone looks at the creative syntax of God as part of the creation of our world. But I think that there was another creation that happened every day. It was the fact that God looked at what He'd made and He said about what He'd made, it is good. Tov. My friends, if you're only making something and not declaring it tov, you're only doing half the job of creation. Look at your wife, tov. Look at your kids, tov. Your business, tov. Your challenges, tov. Your struggles, your illness, everything, tov, 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 tov. Some tov is easier to see. Some tov is harder to see. But there is nothing in this universe that is not in some way tov. Because the act of creation itself was defined by God as being good. So do you want to play that part? It is up to you. Don't just pray to God to give you a sweet and a happy new year. Because I can promise you this. You know what God is going to say at the end of the year? I gave you a good year. I gave you a sweet year. And you messed it up. Because you called it something else. So let's not only pray to Hashem this eve of Rosh Hashanah. Let us also decide for ourselves that we are also going to make the year a Shana Tova Umituka. Baruch Adonai Leolam.